Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. So, as you know, there's been a big push by the media to make it a Rookie of the Year race between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, despite, say, the overwhelming odds in Caitlin Clark's favor amongst betting sites such as FanDuel and even ESPN, even ESPN Bet, despite writing articles that Angel Reese is the top rookie. ESPN Bet had it as Caitlin Clark. Not that I get it. Disclaimer: not that just because a betting site sets odds that's the winner, but it is a pretty good indication. They have to be pretty smart if they want to stay in business. And about 3 weeks ago, I did a video. I'll link to it below. Probably in the first comment. I'll pin that at the top. And talked about how, well, wait a minute, this isn't a Rookie of the Year race. It never was. Now, with the way Clark is playing, it's a MVP race that we should be talking about. She should be considered and in the conversation for MVP, whether you're talking, top 6 or 7, top 5, whatever it may be. And as you can see here, finally, FanDuel has caught up with me and my way of thinking. And you can check out the odds right here. If you can't see that, I know they've got it small. Caitlin Clark is tied for third by FanDuel's odds for MVP, not Rookie of the Year, folks. MVP. You've got Asia Wilson, obviously, who has a huge lead at minus 3,000. Sabrina Ionescu's at plus 6,500. And then Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas are at plus 8,500. But again, my point being, no one is in the media is talking about Caitlin Clark as a possible MVP candidate because they are too busy gaslighting you that there's actually a Rookie of the Year race. There is no Rookie of the Year race. We're going to prove it, and we're going to show you why Caitlin Clark absolutely is in that spot for MVP. And depending on how the type of run the Fever make, she can very well win the MVP her rookie season. Now, again, that'd be very, very difficult because Asia Wilson was basically anointed MVP by the media before the season even started. And yes, she is having an MVP type year. So this isn't about tearing down any other players or taking away from what they're accomplishing. It's just pointing out the type of season that Caitlin Clark is really having despite the media campaign against her. So let's take a quick look. We've got Caitlin Clark's stats here. We're going to go over Asia Wilson. We're going to go through a bunch of different stuff here that's really, really important. So Caitlin, as we can see, she's got her average up to 17.1 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 8.2 assists. Her shooting percentage, which is really hovered below 40 all season long, is up to 40.5. The three, she's been in a little bit of a shooting slump for three. It's not absolutely horrible, but we'd like to get that up to 35 or 36. But her E field goal percentage is 50.9%. And by the way, something I'd like to point out, which is interesting, especially when we go look at Asia's numbers, her 2-point percentage, as you've noticed with her season as it's gone along, she's expanded more and more what she does in order to get her own buckets, right? She's driving more. She's dribbling more and taking players on one-on-one. She's getting into the lane. She's getting shorter jumpers and layups and that sort of thing. And while that's happening, while she's actually shooting more from two, her shooting percentage is going up. She's shooting 54% from two. Now, her overall shooting percentage is down at 40 because, still 60, 65% of her shots are 3-point shots in terms of what she takes. But let's take a look at Asia's numbers. Now, the one that stands out, of course, is the 27.2 points per game. Only 2.4 assists, but you know what? That's actually not bad for a center. So, no big deal there. Field goal percentage at 52.2. And that's because most of her shots, I mean, she's a decent 3-point shooter. She just doesn't take very many. obviously, as a 6'4" center under the basket, 52.2% with a EFG of 53.9, and of course 12 rebounds is a game, but she's that type of center. It's really hard to kind of compare those stats between a point guard and a center. They're almost polar opposites. But one thing I thought that was really interesting too, if you go down here to 2024, 2-point percentage, 53.4, while Caitlin's is 54 flat. And I'm not saying, oh, that means Caitlin's a better player or better 2-point shooter or whatever. I just thought that was surprising to me and pretty interesting, being that Asia Wilson is a post player. She's a 6'4", 195-pound center, and Caitlin is a 6', 150-pound guard who gets most of her 2-point shots in the lane, on difficult drives to the basket. She's not shooting wide open, 12 or 15-foot jumpers. She's getting into the paint where the trees are. And also on the points thing too, you also have, Asia's taken 20 shots a game, 9.5, 19.5, sorry, and Caitlin's only taken 13. So that's obviously going to make a difference as well in terms of their points per game. And let's factor in, I'm going to get into this into a little more detail below, but Asia plays with three other Olympians who aren't just three other Olympians. They're also, because I know that can get political and they're also three other recent MVP candidates as well. And one of them being Chelsea Gray, who everyone thought last year was the best point guard in the league by far. And she finished 7th in the voting last year for MVP. So let's take a look at that. This is Chelsea Gray in 2024, 39% field goal shooter, 45.6 from two, only 24% from three. Not even that great of a free throw shooter. Now that was an off year for her, as we can see, and she didn't. I'm sorry, I'm I'm looking at the wrong ones. I was going to say those seem off. That's this year. Last year she shot 49%. Okay, sorry about that. I confused myself. But so she was 49%, 52.4 from two, and most of her shots, it's like reverse. Most of her shots for two versus, it's about a 60-40, 65-35 split. Caitlin's is the same, but it's in reverse. Caitlin's actually shooting better from two than Chelsea Gray did last year, though Chelsea had a shot well from three. I will give her that shot well from three. I'm not even knocking Chelsea's year. I'm just comparing. She finished 7th in the MVP voting and was considered the best point guard in the league. 3.7 rebounds. Caitlin Clark's 5.8. I'm sorry, 4 rebounds. I'm looking at defensive. 4 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 1.4 steals, 0.6 blocks, 15.3 points. Caitlin is better across the board on all of those. On all of those. 17.1, 5.8 rebounds, 8.2 assists. Shoots better from two, averaging more points, 17.1 to 15.3. So that is, if Chelsea Gray finished 7th in the MVP voting last year with those numbers, how can Caitlin Clark not be part of the MVP conversation? And here's another thing that I will point out for you. Let's see if I can pull it out. I have so many tabs open. I didn't even think to pull this one up, but we're going to go to the WNBA standings. Because if you look at this, you've got the Las Vegas Aces at 16-8. They're 8-2 in their last 10. All right. Now, MVP is the most valuable player. Not necessarily the best player in the league that year, but the most valuable. The Las Vegas Aces are 2-time defending champs. As I said, they have 4 Olympians, 4 MVP candidates. They were 34-6 last year. Chelsea Gray suffered a serious Achilles injury last October. She missed the first 12 games of the season. Guess what the Las Vegas Aces were in those 12 games with the supposed MVP frontrunner, Asia Wilson, but no Chelsea Gray. They were 6-6. 6-6. They are 10-2 since Chelsea Gray came back. And Chelsea Gray's numbers aren't great. And again, that's not a knock on Chelsea Gray. I wouldn't expect them to be when first coming off an injury. She's healthy in terms of she can play, but she's not back, if you understand my meaning. However, she clearly has an incredibly positive impact on that team just by being on the floor if they were 6-6 without her. And then she comes back and they go 10-2 in the 12 games with her. That's huge. And I also wanted to look at this just to give you an idea. This is 2022, and I'll show you 2023 as well. 2022, Asia Wilson won the MVP. Kelsey Plum, a teammate, at third. Chelsea Gray, a teammate, at ninth. Okay, so you had 3 Las Vegas aces in the top 10 in 2022. If we go to 2023, you have Asia Wilson finished third. Chelsea Gray finished seventh. Jackie Young finished ninth. So you had 3 again in the top 10. Last year was Kelsey Plum. This year is Jackie Young. So in the last 2 years, you have 4 players that at least once in the last 2 years finished in the top 10 in MVP voting. Asia Wilson and Chelsea Gray did it both years. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum flip-flopped. But so you've got 4 MVP, not just All-Star or even Olympic, but you've got 4 MVP candidates on the Las Vegas Aces. Think about that. Now, with Caitlin Clark, you have the Fever, who won a whopping 13 games last year, right? 13 games last year. They've already won 11 this year. And that, by the way, is with the insanely tough and ridiculously unfair schedule at the start of the season that had them at some point early in the season playing almost twice as many games as other teams. But not only did they play 11 games in 20 days, but they played all the top teams multiple times. Not all, but let me break it down. In their first 11 games, they played the Connecticut Sun twice. They played the New York Liberty 3 times. They played the Seattle Storm twice. And they also played the 2-time defending champ Las Vegas Aces once. 8 of their 11 games, their first 11 games, that were also in only 20 days, the teams they played were the Liberty 3 times. The Liberty are 21-4 with the best record in the league. They played the Connecticut Sun twice. The Connecticut Sun are 18-2. Wait, that can't be right. Did I misread that? 18-6. Well, I don't know what I'm thinking. They're second in the league. They played the Storm twice, who are 17-8, who are tied for third in the league with the Minnesota Lynx. And they played the Las Vegas Aces, who are fifth, 1 game behind the third place Storm and Lynx at 16-8. Oh, and by the way, just 2 games later in game 13 of the season, they played the Connecticut Sun again. So 8 of their first 11 games, they played 4 of the top 5 teams who are combined 72-22, and they did it in only 20 days. They were set up to fail at the beginning of the season. And since a 1-8 start, they are 10-7 with wins against the New York Liberty, the Minnesota Lynx, and they beat the Phoenix Mercury, who are 13-12. They beat twice. So they beat the top team, Liberty, again 21-1. They beat the tied for third team, Minnesota Lynx, who are 17-8, and they beat the Mercury twice, who are 13-12. And again, Indiana has not made the playoffs, I don't think, since 2016, and they only won 13 games last year, and they've already won 11. So I ask you, where would the Fever be without Cece? Without Caitlin Clark, where are the Indiana Fever right now? They'd fall off a cliff. But what about without Asia Wilson in Las Vegas? Oh, would they fall back? Yeah, absolutely. But they still have three of the league's top players with Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, and Kelsey Plum, who in the last 2 years have all finished in the top 10 in MVP voting. Chelsea Gray finishing in the top 10 both years. Now, again, I know she's coming off an injury, but she's only going to get better from this point on. So, despite the schedule, despite being on a bad team, despite teammates that don't set screens or catch her passes or pass her the ball or make layups, and despite a coach that is completely unqualified and is also passive aggressive toward her team and especially Caitlin Clark and is very jealous of Caitlin Clark. That's been very incredibly obvious. Caitlin Clark is still tearing up the league and she's getting better and better as the season goes on. Look, her July stats alone. Now I know that this was 2/3 of a month, or when was her last game? The 17th, a little over half a month. But in July, 20.3 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 12 and a half assists per game, which is most in a month in league history, 57.1% total shooting percentage, 43.2% field goal percentage, despite the slumping threes and the fact that most of her attempts are threes. Still a 43.2% field goal percentage. She's the first ever 20.10 assists a month in league history. And yes, I know it was a short month. She's still the first in league history, not first rookie, first player. She's the youngest player with a 25-5 month. She's got her third month with a 15-5-5, which is the third most ever. Most assists per game in a month in WNBA history, which I just mentioned when I rattled off her July stats. She has set a WNBA single game assist record. She leads the WNBA in points scored or assisted at 35.2 points per game, which is second in WNBA history. She recorded the first ever rookie triple double double while beating the number one team in the league. She became the first player ever to record 3 consecutive 13-plus assist games, and I believe she had 4 of those. She recorded a stat line that no WNBA player has ever put up when she recorded 29 points, 5 rebounds, 13 assists, 5 steals, and 3 blocks. By the way, to go back to the whole Rookie of the Year media gaslighting with the campaign and not even talking about MVP, she's the first player in WNBA history to average 20 points plus per game, 10 assists or more per game, and not get selected as player of the week because she did it for a week, or player of the month because she did it for the month. So clearly the fix is in. Clearly the fix is in. So she was robbed of player of the week and player of the month. She's the fastest player ever to 400 points and 200 assists. She did it in just 26 games, the fewest career games needed in WNBA history. The previous record was shattered. That was 33 games by Sue Bird. She leads the entire WNBA in assists at 8.2. She set a franchise record assists in a season. Again, the WNBA single game record, WNBA record for most double doubles in a season by a rookie guard with 9. Oh, and by the way, in the past 10 games, if you take her turnovers that everyone loves to talk about, who doesn't like Caitlin Clark, from her assists, she still leads the league in assists. Yes, you heard that correctly. And speaking of assists, WNBA leaders in rim assists, getting your teams the easiest bucket. Caitlin Clark is number 1 with 112 of those. Number two, you want to know who number 2 is? Sabrina Ionescu? I'm sorry, just that I'm having trouble seeing her because she's all the way back with 70. Yes, 112 and then 70. And then there's no gap after that because Arike is third with 69. And then Alyssa Thomas and Skylar Diggins Smith are tied for fourth with 68. So you've got 70, 69, 68, 68, but Caitlin's above that with 112. And again, going back to her season stats, 17.1 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 8.2 assists per game leads the WNBA, 50.9% EFG, 1.5 steals per game, zero point 0.8 blocks per game, 57.1% total shooting percentage, 1.3 points produced per shot taken. Oh, by the way, she has 109 points and 64 assists in her last 5 games. In WNBA history, first time that's ever occurred in any 5 game span. Well, we could reduce it if we lower it to 90 points at 50 assists. It's only occurred 4 times in WNBA history, and 3 of those belong to Caitlin Clark. So, like I said, they're trying to anoint Asia Wilson, and they did it before the season even started, the same way that the media has pretended that Angel Reese is a Rookie of the Year candidate. And the most important thing for valuable player is Caitlin Clark is one of those very rare players that makes the entire team better just by being on the court. Just by being on the court. Let's take a look at this one. This is from the All-Star game. Real quick. The All-Star game. And I stress that for a reason because look at this. Vision, but look at that. Are you the attention paid to Caitlin Clark, even in an All-Star game when you have all these other great players around her, you get someone that wide open for a three because they're paying so much attention to Caitlin Clark. Look at this. First of all, beaten way too easily off the dribble. Right? That's like, I mean, wait, I thought Caitlin Clark couldn't dribble. I thought she didn't have handles. I thought she wasn't quick enough. Well, that's an Olympian that she just embarrassed. And then boom, now you've got 2 more players coming in and wide open. Wide open. Did I mention wide open because they're paying so much attention to Caitlin Clark? So much attention paid to Caitlin Clark. Now, this is interesting too. Again, All-Star game. This is a rookie point guard. Now, you're not actually going to be able to hear it because of the crowd noise, but the point is, if you watch, she has their attention. She has their attention. Now, see that you can have. They're all listening to Caitlin Clark. There's one of those things where you get into a game that can't be fake. You get a lot of people talking about how so many people seem nice to Caitlin Clark and they're having pictures taken with her and stuff, and that was just for show. It was for social media clout, whatever it might be. But here you can see that these players that she is playing with in this All-Star game, they respect her. They respect her knowledge. They respect her skill. She is absolutely a floor leader. Absolutely a floor leader. And let's see. We remember this. I won't go through the whole thing, but I just got to point this out again. You're talking about MVP. This is an all-star game, and look at the attention paid to Caitlin Clark. I mean, this is so absurd. You can see a little smirk on her face, which I don't think I ever pointed out before. But she's like, "Really, all-star game? This is what you're doing?" And it is just, and of course, it burns them because, whoop, you're going to turn to Aaliyah. I'm out of here. I separate. I'm gone. I make this insane pass, and we got 3 points. Absolutely crazy. There's no other person in the league drawing that kind of attention. No other person in the league. So let me see what this is. Is this the, yeah, okay. I think this is Hopefully I can play these, man. Sometimes it's crazy. I'll try and upload this and it gets blocked from copyright. Sometimes stuff happens and I can use a minute, and other times I use a few seconds and it gets destroyed. But this is the beginning. I believe this is the beginning of the basket. Yeah, this is the beginning of the basket, the assist to Angel Reese that everyone talks about. But this is the whole thing. So this was actually on a made basket. And the reason I'm showing you this is listen to Caitlin Clark as soon as talking to Angel Reese, as soon as that ball goes in. She's saying, go, go, go. She's got Angel Reese running. Angel Reese creates a little separation there. That was a nice play by Angel, by the way. And boom, and we got a bucket. By the way, that's the first time I saw this angle too, so I wanted to point that out. That was also a nice job by Angel to slow up where she did that helped Caitlin Clark get free. So kudos to Angel Reese there. But that being said, there's no rookie of the year race. There's an MVP race. Granted, I understand with everything the media has done, it's a foregone conclusion that it will be Asia Wilson. But you got to do a lot to convince me that that is a foregone conclusion and that Caitlin Clark doesn't belong in that discussion. And again, it goes back to the whole rookie year of the stuff, how they're trying to make it a thing, right? This was Shaquille O'Neal not that long ago. I'm not just saying this because she went to LSU, but I think she's definitely leading in the Rookie of the Year race, O'Neal said. I give the vote to Angel. He couldn't come up with any reason why, but he's giving her the vote. And by the way, he previously called Reese the greatest athlete to ever come out of LSU. I want you to think about that for a second. And again, not a knock on Angel Reese, people. This is a knock on the fools in the media and this absurd gaslighting with people like Shaquille O'Neal. LSU, LSU, think about it. Think of all the professional athletes, basketball, football, that have come out of LSU, and you're going to call Reese the greatest athlete to ever come out of LSU? I don't even know where to begin with with that. Oh, and a couple more things just for the rookie race thing. Here's something really cool. Unreal Stat illustrates Caitlin Clark's staggering lead over fellow WNBA rookies. This was the other game when she had the record 19 assists and 24 points. 10th 20-point game of her rookie campaign. All other rookies combined have 8. Yes, you have that correct. 20-point games this season for the rookies. Caitlin Clark, 10. The rest of the rookies combined, 8. 10, 8. Oh, but I think there's more. Head to head. Now that's regular season numbers, but overall stats for the season. Caitlin Clark, more points. Obviously, Angel Reese is going to have a rebound lead. All forwards should, but 5.8 for a point guard is a good number. Assists, 8.2 to 1.8. And yes, just like the rebounds, that should flip. Point guard, center, power forward, I think she technically plays. Although Cardoso's a center, so it's weird. Steals, edge to Clark. Blocks, edge to Clark. That's crazy. Field goal percentage, despite 65% of her shots being from three, from which she shoots from a longer average distance than Steph Curry. And Angel Reese shoots everything within 4 feet of the basket. She still has a better field goal percentage. Her three is a little low, but I'm not even, that's not even fair. So that's no knock on Reese. Free throw percentage bigger. EFG is night and day. So is total shooting percentage because you're adding in free throws in there, and Caitlin Clark has a big edge from the free throw percentage. So that's it for now, I think. That's all I've got for you. But I'm telling you, I started saying it 3 weeks ago. I will put the link. I think I did 2 videos. I'll put them in the first comment below, or the description if you haven't seen them. And now you can see FanDuel, right? We've got FanDuel on board here. Caitlin Clark tied with Alyssa Thomas for third in the odds for MVP. Please don't be listening to the media headlines. Don't be checking out ESPN for all their craziness because they just hired a bunch of people to say Angel Reese is Rookie of the Year because we don't like Caitlin Clark. And again, for all the crazy people, I'm not knocking Angel Reese. I'm knocking the media. Now, of course, you could get into Angel Reese has embraced all of this and think she's a Rookie of the Year candidate, but that's a separate issue. But I'm going after the media for trying to make it a thing. Anyway, that's all I've got. Are you starting to buy in just a little bit? And I get if you believe she's not going to be MVP. I don't think she will either. But you're not going to convince me that she shouldn't be considered for it and has a legitimate shot, setting aside all the nonsense, an actual legitimate shot at being considered the MVP by people who know basketball and want to be as objective as you can possibly be. At the end of the day, it's subjective, but especially comparing a point guard to a center. But those who want to try and be objective, you can't tell me that Caitlin Clark is not part of that conversation. Absolutely not. But let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments below. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.